For every loved SpongeBob character, there is always one hated by everyone. And we're gonna be starting with Mr. Krabs, who is nothing more than a greedy, cheap, and ruthless boss. Throughout the show, we see him act like more of a villain than Plankton, and unlike Patrick, he is more than fully aware of his actions. He's made his employees work thousands of hours of overtime without pay, break, or vacation, and honestly, he takes no consideration for anyone, including his own daughter, unless cold hard cash is involved. Heck, in the episode SpongeBob You're Fired, we find out that he only pays SpongeBob a nickel a day.
And it turns out that I'll save a whole nickel if I cut your salary.
Mr. Krabs, my boy, it is not the 1920s. You gotta pay SpongeBob more than that. Come on, man. How is he gonna feed his pet, Gary? But to only make his greed worse, in the episode Born Again Krabs, he went too far as to almost ripping a guy's arm off over a penny and sold SpongeBob for 62 cents. Mr. Krabs even scared Plankton so much that he was this close to offing himself. In the episode One Course Meal, after finding out Plankton has a crippling fear of whales, Mr. Krabs gets a very messed up idea to get back at Plankton. But instead of just using his newfound knowledge as a quick scare tactic or maybe a one-time prank, Mr. Krabs decides to mentally destroy him. He literally dresses up as his own daughter in a terrifying whale costume and messes with Plankton in his own house. All this causes Plankton to lose sleep, and my boy Plankton does not look good. After many more sleepless nights and literal nightmares about Pearl eating him, Plankton is so tormented by the constant fear of these whale attacks that he tries to unalive himself by laying in the road and waiting for a car to run him over. Meanwhile, Mr. Krabs is celebrating this in his office. Mr. Krabs is out here using straight up CIA torture techniques. Who is the worst character in SpongeBob? Mr. Krabs. Tie between Patrick and Mr. Krabs, specifically season 6 through 8. Both characters become unlikable TBH, and seem to ruin certain episodes. Overall though, despite the hate, I personally think Mr. Krabs is probably one of the funniest characters in the show, even though he has some very apparent character flaws, and meanwhile, at the same time is breaking hundreds of OSHA violations. But those flaws are just that and can't be ignored. So while Mr. Krabs may be hated for being a greedy and selfish boss, SpongeBob is loved for his endless optimism and a work ethic that puts most adults to shame. SpongeBob is the kind of character that radiates pure joy, whether he's catching jellyfish, annoying Squidward, or flipping the perfect Krabby Patty. He always approaches life with a contagious, positive attitude, especially during the earlier seasons. It's incredibly easy to say the show used to be great without saying why. SpongeBob especially is one of my favorite characters, because he was an adult with childish interests, rather than the child portrayed on screen now in modern SpongeBob seasons. SpongeBob held a job, went to driving school, and is a homeowner who takes care of a pet. He was a multi-factored adult character. He still cried and blew some bubbles, but his crying was justified. SpongeBob blew bubbles, but he also played the ukulele, he watched TV, and threw house parties. He wasn't a nuisance, and if he was, he didn't know it. Bro was just living his best life. He's the kind of guy who gets excited for work on his day off, turns chores into adventures, and makes something as simple as a literal cardboard box come to life with his imagination. His iconic catchphrases, another day, another nickel, goofy laugh, and unwavering loyalty to his friends has cemented him as not just the star of the show, but as one of the most loved cartoon characters ever. But while SpongeBob is loved by pretty much everyone, the same cannot be said about his best friend, Patrick. Now, don't get me wrong, Patrick definitely used to be one of the most loved SpongeBob characters, especially in the earlier seasons. But nowadays, Patrick's character has been completely flanderized, and anything that made him once loved is completely gone. Patrick started as someone who was obviously really dumb.
What kind of place is this?
But he wasn't dumb in an annoying way, and his character actually bounced off SpongeBob really well. Take the episode Life of Crime from season 2. This is just a prime example of peak Patrick. He's really funny, but he's not nearly as annoying as in recent episodes like the Nitwitting. And it's very clear that anything that was lovable about the old Patrick is completely gone. Later season Patrick, after the original writers left, Patrick's star turned into an asshole, especially to SpongeBob. Exactly. The newer season Patrick is just an inconsiderate asshole and a fake friend. I feel like he doesn't deserve his own show. If the writers kept Patrick the same, I would say he deserves his own show. All of this is so bad that it's even caused people to go as far as making downfall videos about him. But while Patrick may have had one of the biggest fall-offs in SpongeBob history, the same cannot be said about SpongeBob's pet, Gary. Gary is a loyal and consistent character who always sticks by SpongeBob's side. And you may be asking, why am I yapping about a literal pet snail in this video? Well, that's because his character's actually way deeper than that, and that's what makes Gary so loved. And we especially see this in the episode A Pal for Gary, which, by the way, is the worst rated SpongeBob episode of all time, and that's because SpongeBob is absolutely insufferable in this episode. And his arrogance here really shows when he buys a friend to try to keep Gary company when he's away. But what started as a good intention ends up as a giant killer monster who wants to murder Gary. But even through all this, despite just being a tiny snail, Gary perseveres and tries to take down the giant beast, which SpongeBob appropriately gave the name Puffy Fluffy. But when SpongeBob gets kidnapped and trapped in Puffy Fluffy's mouth, Gary really locks in and goes full on cowboy mode, absolutely destroying Puffy Fluffy. He always has SpongeBob's back. He's loyal, lovable, and will do anything to protect SpongeBob. And that's what makes him so loved. Plus, he's like a tiny pet snail. What? Do you hate animals? How could you possibly hate this little guy? But while I assume most people love Gary, their opinions could not be any more different about Flats the Flounder. Flats made his infamous appearance in the episode The Bully, where he transferred to Mrs. Puff's boating school with one goal: to kick SpongeBob's butt.
Hi, SpongeBob. I'm gonna kick your butt.
But here's the thing, Flats wasn't funny, he wasn't deep, he was just mean. Fans found him unnecessarily aggressive, bringing the kind of real-world schoolyard bullying that doesn't really go with Bikini Bottom's usual goofy energy. And no matter how many times SpongeBob tried to befriend him, Flats stuck to his mission, turned the episode into a weird game of how long can you watch SpongeBob get stalked before it gets uncomfortable. And spoiler alert, it's not long. His lack of humor, depth, or even a decent reason for hating SpongeBob left fans annoyed. I think he's just a jerk. I think he's a stupid guy who thinks beating someone's butt is fun. Even in a town full of villains, Flats stood out. Not as an evil bad guy, but as someone who's just straight up annoying. But while Flats might be hated by most people for just being a straight up bully, fans can't seem to get enough of Doodle Bob. He made his first appearance in the episode Frankendoodle, and it starts with a dude on a boat dropping a pencil into the ocean, which conveniently lands right next to SpongeBob and Patrick. And when they draw with it, the things they draw actually come to life. So somehow they got their hands on a magic pencil. And then predictably, they go around drawing a bunch of things, like a little version of Squidward, a money trap for Squidward, and even a replica of SpongeBob, who immediately goes and beats up Squidward. And the noises this thing makes are definitely something. So they go chasing him around to get the pencil back, until they end up back at SpongeBob's house. But while in here fighting, they realize that his biggest weakness is getting trapped in paper. So SpongeBob takes advantage of that and traps him in a book, framing him and keeping him as a little souvenir in the house. One of the greatest episodes ever. Absolute legend. If she says meoy, marry her. But while everyone loves Doodle Bob, everyone seems to collectively hate Bubble Bass. He was introduced in the episode Pickles, and he immediately made waves in the community for all the wrong reasons. His defining moment in this episode is literally gaslighting SpongeBob all over a sandwich. In this episode, he ordered a Krabby Patty, claiming it was missing pickles, and this sent my boy SpongeBob into a full-blown existential crisis, with him literally forgetting how to do basic tasks, all because he's sad he allegedly messed up one Krabby Patty. All the while, the entire time, Bubble Bass was hiding the pickles under his tongue. It was the ultimate troll move, not just because it was rude, but it turns out that the whole time, he didn't even like pickles. Why do characters like Bubble Bass and Flats the Flounder come out to just mess with my boy SpongeBob? Like, what did he ever do wrong to any of them? And that's what I think makes these specific characters so hated. They're kind of just thrown into the plot to be the bully. Also, he apparently steals a lot of random stuff too. But while Bubble Bass is generally hated for just being kind of a jerk, the same cannot be said about Squidward. Squidward is the character that the show really needs to balance out SpongeBob and Patrick shenanigans. points. Like, imagine if they didn't have Squidward in their life to mess with, and how boring the show would be. It would just turn into them being idiots for the entire episode with no plot. And we've seen in episodes like The Nitwitting how that turns out. When the show first aired, Squidward was supposed to just be the grumpy neighbor that everyone kind of hated and rolled their eyes at. And any kid watching the show might think that. But as you get older, you start to relate to Squidward more, and almost feel bad for the dude and all he has to go through on a daily basis. This man just wants to work his dead-end job at the Krusty Krab, play his clarinet, and be left alone. Is that too much to ask? Well, apparently, yes. Especially when SpongeBob and Patrick live right next door. But he doesn't spend his time only yelling at SpongeBob. He's an artist, in his own mind, a musician, kind of, and someone who deep down really does care. Only if it benefits him. And in the episode Love That Squid, we see that Squidward's girlfriend Squilvia acts just like Squidward. So maybe it's in Squid DNA to act really grumpy and selfish. Many fans relate to his sarcasm, dry humor, and his struggle between wanting peace and secretly craving connection. Plus, when Squidward does get his rare wins, like in Band Geeks, it's pure magic. So yeah, Squidward may be a grumpy old man in many people's eyes, but in Bikini Bottom, he's the only one you can count on to keep it real, and give it to you how it is. And there's something cool about that. But while many people like Squidward, I don't know a single person who likes Pearl. I mean, seriously, have you ever heard anyone say, yeah, Pearl's my favorite character? Me neither. And online, people don't really like her either. She's a total POS. She's a textbook 12-year-old girl with low self-esteem. She's loud, bratty, and her entire personality revolves around her being a spoiled teenager who constantly complains. And honestly, if that's what the show writers are going for, I guess they're doing a good job, but personally, I don't really know any SpongeBob fans who like Pearl. And a good example of her just being kind of annoying is in the episode Whale of a Birthday. And in this episode, Mr. Krabs tries to throw her a party, and Pearl spends the entire time whining and being ungrateful. But to be fair, this counts more as one of Mr. Krabs' worst moments in the series, because he totally cheaped out on her birthday, literally giving her a cardboard cake. Like, who does that? A cardboard cake? There's not much more to say about her because in all honesty, she's just kind of a boring character. But while Pearl is just kind of a brat and is really annoying to watch, it's pretty hard to hate Sandy. She's smart, tough, and she's actually the only air-breathing mammal in Bikini Bottom, which already makes her pretty unique. And to make her even more interesting, she is an absolutely genius inventor. Whether she's karate chopping with SpongeBob, inventing rocket ships, or a goo-filled Krabby Patty that turns everyone into Krabby Patty monsters, Sandy proves that she's a force to be reckoned with. But it's not just her strength that makes her lovable, it's her heart, Sandy's loyalty to her friends, and her great sense of adventure that gives her layers that go beyond the stereotypical tough girl trope. I think Sandy deserves more love, and the love for Sandy in the community really shows, because the creators of SpongeBob decided to make a whole movie focused around Sandy. Sandy's blend of brains, strengths, and southern charm makes her one of the most beloved characters in all of SpongeBob. Plus, who else could rock a astronaut suit and a flower on their helmet? But comment down below what your 5 most hated and most loved SpongeBob characters are, and make sure to click the video on screen. I'm sure you'll love it.